Where the error in most people's thinking is, I believe, is that they think that the system is going to be the answer to their problem. And so one of the things that I developed in the last year is this thing I call the triple S process. And the three S's stand for stabilize, systemize, and scale. And so the reason I created it is because most people in business have a desire to improve and grow, which is the scale piece. That's the third S. To be able to do that, you need to be able to systemize. You need to have repeatable systems that create reliability and repeatability. And until and unless they are established, you can't scale. But the error is that people go straight to the system. I need to find a system. I need to buy a system. I need to learn a system.
Hi, Mick. Thank you so much for joining me on the Profitable Estimator Podcast. And here I am. I'm Joey Hidalgo. And we're going to listen from the shall we say, legendary mate that we have from our down under Tessie. Hello, Mick.
Jesus.
Welcome to the show.
I don't know where we go from there. Like, we start off at legend. Where can we go from there? Tough place to start.
Let's bring everyone to Tessie. What's happening out there?
Yeah. Yes, we've got plenty of room. Come and visit.
Okay, like you just said the other way around. You scare people to come to Tassie. It's always ready here. Don't go.
Yeah, well, it's not that. It's just everybody outside of Tassie always says, it's always cold there. It's always raining. And it's like, it's not. We have less rainfall per year than Melbourne and Sydney, and more sunny days than both of those capitals statistically. But we allow the thought to continue because it keeps people away. Like, you can still park outside the shop that you want to go into down here in the city. It's wonderful.
Okay, well, interesting. Now, let's start. Okay, how did you end up getting your job in the construction space?
Well, I've kind of always been in it ever since I left school. My dad was actually a commercial builder. He used to do schools and factories and things like that. And after school, when I finished school in grade 10, I did an electrical apprenticeship, so I was kind of involved in the building industry from that perspective, and went and did a whole lot of other things. When I finished my apprenticeship, I left the state and went for a 3-month holiday to Sydney, and ended up staying there for 13 years, got married, had children, and ended up coming back down here. But in that space, did lots of things, fixed photocopiers. I was a professional muso for a while. But where it kind of all started was I woke up one day, as most people do, with this amazing thought that I need to sell life insurance. And like most people have that thought, that's a joke. Everyone hates life insurance. But I went and did it. I'm not sure why, brain fart. But it was the best thing that I did from the perspective that the requirement for the place that I was working was we had to go through an hour worth of training every single day, 5 days a week for the first year that you were there. And I happened to meet a man who's still a very, very close friend and mentor today. So that's like 40 years later or something, 35 years later.
Wow.
And he got me interested in the personal development side of things. Yes, we were learning about sales techniques and blah, blah, blah. But the thing that really captured my attention was just the personal development, like how to manage your mindset and how to manage your emotions and goal setting and all of that stuff that goes along with personal development. And then I was working like a crazy person, like doing 14-hour days, 6 and 7 days a week, because that was the only way I knew how to get ahead. So I started to look into time management. I learnt a lot about that. It had a profound effect on me, and I ended up joining that company and teaching time management. So that was the first coaching gig that I had. Was I was being flown around the country by this company called Daytimer, teaching time management principles, mindset and techniques. And then that sort of evolved into our own business. We started our own business, coaching small business. And then about 11 years ago, we focused our attention into residential builders. So now our ideal coaching clients are residential builders that have been around for about 10 years plus, and generally it's a husband and wife team. So most of our Builders Business Black Belt members are husband and wife run residential building companies. So that's kind of how we ended up where we are now.
Wow. That's such amazing background that you have there. And oftentimes, right, people may think that our past experiences may not correlate. Most people who actually start a business like what we do, similar, right, tend to see that I have a fragment of this knowledge here and there. From what I see, what we see out here, Mick, is you actually have packaged that in a one solution, all of your, I shall say, treasure box of knowledge and insights and expertise. And here you are, you put it in that perspective, which is the black belt, right? Now, any correlation to concepts of Six Sigma black belt, something like that?
Say that again, you just dropped out.
Is there any correlation with like the Six Sigma system or lean construction that's actually happening out there right now?
Well, I would say no. Just speaking with a whole lot of builders over the journey as I have, I believe in it. Like, I think that understanding the lean philosophy and applying it to a business is just the smartest thing to do.
Right.
But what I'm finding is, particularly in the residential area, that the owner of the building business is such a firefighter that they're consumed by just fixing this plethora of problems that they experience every day. They just don't seem to have the bandwidth to put their focus and time into learning, well, how can we do things a little bit better? How can we measure things so we can find out what is the weakest link in our chain, and let's fix that, and let's just continue that cycle. And in fact, I did a video. I've taken on this challenge of doing a video a day about concepts and posting it up on LinkedIn. And the most recent one I did was about this whole concept of small hinges swing big doors. You know, it's the tiny little things that we do that can make the biggest difference.
You're almost there,
the past,
actually. You're almost there to the 90th day, is it?
No, I've just, that was 100. I think I recorded 104 yesterday. So
wow,
I've gone past 90.
That's the most challenge. Initially, you were thinking of having it as a 90 initially, as you put out there, but you've gone past that now. I mean, you caught me. I'm so busy too, but I've been following you around. So, and one of the key aspects, shall we say, that, like you just said, let's explore those. Being a business owner, which is like a husband and wife gig, right? Oftentimes, when do they come to you? I mean, is it always like with a bleeding neck already situation, or how often they...
Very rarely do people come to us when things are going really well. In fact, I can't remember anyone ever doing that. It's more like, I'm sick of it. We're just under the pump financially, constantly. I'm just overwhelmed. I know that I need to do things better. I know I need systems. I know I need to do things differently. I'm just under the pump, and so it's really important to acknowledge that and not go, well, here's the solution. Like, listen to the problems and offer the solutions, because the solutions will not be implemented by someone who's overwhelmed. So the very first thing that you've got to address is that whole mindset thing, and give them a system and a process to start to get control over their thoughts and their feelings, and give them a step-by-step simple system to start to get control back over their day, and make the space to be able to start to think about the implementation of the solutions to these problems. So it's not a matter of, here's my problem, well, here's the solution, because it just doesn't get implemented, because the people are just running in 7 different directions at once, 300 mile an hour with their hair on fire. There isn't the space in their mind to be able to implement those solutions. So we've got to go, stop, let's do this first. Let's give you a process to start to get control over your thoughts, over your emotions, and a process to be able to prepare for your day more effectively. Let's just do that first, and then we'll figure out the solutions to the other problems later.
And I would love to mention that you created this scorecard to actually diagnose for them, right? For them to diagnose their current situation. Because oftentimes people come for a solution, but they don't understand what's their main issue, what's their main concern. Talk us through that. What does what's involved? I tried it myself, but I would like you to actually tell us what's the inspiration why you created that scorecard.
Well, I guess for what you've just mentioned is that most people don't really realise what the true cause of their issues are. So, I put a lot of time and effort into figuring out some questions that make sense, that really get to the core of the issue, because most people, when they start a business, the motivation for starting the business in the first place, rather than working for somebody else, is, well, I can make more money working for myself. I can have more choice working for myself. I can have more time freedom when I'm working for myself. So they're generally the three motivations for starting a business: is time, money, and meaning. If you've ever spoken to any small business owners, 99 out of 1,000 don't accomplish any one of those three things. When they work for themselves, they end up earning less than they pay their staff. They end up working many more hours than their staff do, and they come in when they're ill, and they just soldier through, and they don't get the freedom of choice to work with whoever they want to and do what they want. It's the exact opposite of what they started for in the first place. The questionnaire, the scorecard that I put together, asks questions around those areas to identify where the problems are in their mindset and in their thinking. And some people are sort of a little bit better in the money area than the time area. Some people are a bit better in the time area than the money area or the meaning area. So we've created those three areas, and you'll get a score based on your answers for each of those three areas. And it's called the Builder's Freedom Readiness Scorecard. So we all want to have time and financial freedom, but sometimes we're just not ready because we have the wrong mindset, we have the wrong approach, we have the wrong priorities. So we can hope and dream all we like to get financial and time freedom, but it's never going to happen until we shift those things. So the scorecard basically just calls it as it is. It gives you a starting point, but it also, in the report that you get after you fill it out, it gives you some actions that you can implement based on where you're at. Because I think that's another problem too, particularly in the building industry, that people getting into the building industry will look around and see other businesses that seem more successful or seem to have a level of success that person aspires to. So they go ahead and try and copy that other business. And that's fundamentally flawed for a couple of reasons, because what we should be doing is doing what they did at the beginning to become successful rather than doing what they do now. That doesn't work. And then the other issue is that there is a lot of businesses out there in the building industry that look like they're very successful, but if you scratch the surface a little bit, they're built on a house of cards and could fall over at any moment. So it's a bit of a fundamentally flawed approach to building your building business, I think, copying others.
Okay. Well, I couldn't agree more. In terms with systems, right? Because you help clients set up those systems. Talk us through, how do you establish that framework? Joining your program and then eventually setting up that themselves for actually, shall we say, a milestone per milestone to get into that freedom?
It's an interesting question. And I think that had you asked me this 12 or 18 months ago, my answer would be different. Where I'm at the moment is that I absolutely agree and promote the necessity of systems in a business. Absolutely important. Where the error in most people's thinking is, I believe, is that they think that the system is going to be the answer to their problem. And so one of the things that I developed in the last year is this thing I call the triple S process. And the three S's stand for stabilize, systemize, and scale. And so the reason I created it is because most people in business have a desire to improve and grow, which is the scale piece. That's the third S. To be able to do that, you need to be able to systemize. You need to have repeatable systems that create reliability and repeatability. And until and unless they are established, you can't scale. But the error is that people go straight to the system. I need to find a system. I need to buy a system. I need to learn a system. But I'm sure that you would agree, Joey, that in particularly in the last 18 months with the advent of AI and all of these agents and all of the technology that we've now got in front of us, that the rate of change is such that I believe that by the time that you find a system, learn the system and implement the system, it's probably redundant by that stage. And so the real key to this is the first S, which is stabilize. And what the stabilize piece in this 3-part process focuses on is, what do I believe and how do I behave in this space? Because generally what you believe and how you act and behave is at the root cause of the problem. And so if we address that first, if we address what we believe, what we think, how we act, how we behave, and we modify that, we understand that, most of the time that problem disappears because we've changed our approach to it. You know, Stephen Covey says the way we see the problem is the problem. So if we work on this stabilize idea first and really dive deep into our own thought processes, beliefs and behaviors, more often than not, the problem disappears, so we don't need a system. But if you're working on yourself, your mindset, your beliefs, your behaviors, I believe that you will be able to develop a system all by yourself. But the best thing about it is that you will continue to learn and grow, and you'll be able to modify and improve those systems as you go, rather than choosing the other path that I just explained of going to try and find or learn a system that already exists. That will be redundant by the time you learn it and implement it. So that's the answer to that question today. But 18 months, it would have been very different 18 months ago.
What an awesome paradigm shift there. So I see you're a fan too of that book of Stephen Covey. So,
oh yeah.
And want to delve more a little bit on these builders who try to win jobs, right? Mm-hmm. What are the ways, shall we say, or what are the situations that you come across that they've been trying to price jobs but they're not winning it? Yeah. How do you address that? How do you help them find their way in through success?
Yeah, great question, because it sort of feeds into what we were just talking about, and it's the mindset of the builder. And the majority of builders think this, that whether they get jobs or not is purely price driven. And I will argue to the death that there is no one who makes decisions based on price. Statistically, we're led to believe that 80% of the population make decisions based on value and 20% make decisions based on price. I don't believe that. I believe 100% of people make decisions based on value, not on price. Even analytical people, really numbers-driven people, they still end up making a decision based on a feeling. That we make decisions based on emotions. The very first thing that the builder needs to understand is that if you are putting price on the table as a discussion focus for a project, you're already leading your prospect down the wrong path. The real key to this is delivering awesome value. So the person, the prospect that the builder has needs to see the builder as someone who is very professional, is very knowledgeable, but is the person that can support, guide, and protect them from the problems that they hear about with building projects. And so the first and most important thing that a builder needs to do if they want to start, and you use the term winning work, and that's one of the things that I disagree with from the start, because if we think that I'm going to win the work, then the project is the prize. And what we teach our builders is you are the prize. So we're completely flipping the script. Instead of the builder turning up and fundamentally the client is there or the prospect is there, and they're like Simon Cowell, they're sitting at the judge's bench and they go, what do you got? And the builder comes out and juggles fire and swallows knives and all of this sort of stuff and goes, ta-da, pick me. And we teach our builders, we've got to flip that script. The builder needs to be the judge on the judging panel, and the client comes out and you're saying, what do you got? And you're either choosing to open the door to let them into your business, or you're showing them the door, moving them on because they're not the right fit. To be able to do that, though, the builder has to be able to be skilled in delivering high levels of perceived value from the prospect's point of view. And the best way to do that is to have listening skills, what we call level 5 listening skills. We talked about Stephen Covey and the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. One of the best things anybody can do is grab that book and consume habit 5, first seek to understand, then to be understood, over and over and over and over and over and over until they become a master of this level 5 listening philosophy. Because not only will it be valuable for your prospects, it will be valuable in every other area of your life, but it'll be valuable talking to your team members, your subcontractors, your suppliers, everybody. That skill is absolutely profound. And the best way to have somebody else feel really connected to you, have a high level of trust with you, is for them to feel absolutely that you understand their problems from their perspective. If you can do that, there'll be such high levels of trust. You will be the only option in their mind, and price has nothing to do with it. And I'm not being ridiculous about this from the perspective. I know that people have budgets and there's the end of the road with how much money they can actually access to put into a project. We get that. But if you direct the conversation so it's focused on price, you're going to be losing more times than you win. And if you have this idea where you go, okay, if a person makes their decisions based on a feeling and on their perception of the value that they get working with you, maybe I should put all my effort into that rather than talking about price.
Agree. Thank you so much for that insight. Let me pause a little bit, just a second. Okay, because this is going to be edited anyway, so don't worry. Okay, we'll get a...
Yep.
Put that to pieces. So, let me see here. Just a second. I know you had a nice view. I just want to fix out a little bit. Okay. So, now, going back to what you just said. Let me just... Okay. The inherent question that I want to address with you is this, okay? How should I say it? Whoever started this, make free coats.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts to this? I have another more to say about obviously you address that on your initial statement about it's not about a price. I would say whoever smart ass who had thought about that actually caused a lot of problem out in industry now. What are your thoughts about that? Free coats.
What came to mind as soon as you said that is some years ago, we sort of were touring around Victoria and visiting our black belt members and setting up cameras and interviewing them and, just to create some content. And I remember interviewing Steve, his name was, and the first thing he said, I'd like to find the bloke who came up with the idea of free quotes and punch him in the face. That was the first thing he said. But then he stopped and he said, but I kind of understand how it happened, because he said, I'm a second generation builder. My dad was a builder. So, he said, my dad built about 70 homes back in the day. Mm-hmm. And if you sort of go back that far, he said, they were kind of the same. You'd use the same materials. Back then it was probably hardwood frames and that same sort of brick and the same sort of tile, and the design of the homes were kind of the same. They didn't have anywhere near the level of compliance that builders have to deal with in this day and age. Like, it's ridiculous now with everything they have to comply with, safety and council and blah, 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 you name it. It's crazy. But back then, it wasn't like that. And he said my dad could probably see somebody and they'd sort of map the house out on the back of an old envelope and get a rough idea of the size of it. And he'd be able to do a quote, like figure out how much that's going to cost, because they'd done it before. They knew how long it was going to take. They knew what the cost of the materials were. They weren't changing much, all of that sort of stuff. So it was a little bit of a cookie cutter scenario back then. So why would you charge for a quote? Because it literally took 5 minutes to figure it out. Like, you could do a square meter rate back then and it would be very, very accurate. But that's not now. Like, now the range of fixtures and fittings and methods and compliance based on where you are, and soil tests and bushfire ratings and safety and that, it's just an absolute minefield. So you would know more than anybody how important it is to get into the weeds and the detail of estimating the cost of a project. And it's not like it used to be. there's a lot more to consider now. And so I can understand, as Steve said, how the free quote thing got started, but it's no longer relevant. It can't be relevant. It cannot be relevant. And the way that I think about it now is that the preparation of a project, and by the way, I love what you guys do, because I just think it's wonderful to have another organisation that has their finger on the pulse of pricing and just all the details around all of that. That is a third party from the builder. So it's not the builder ripping the client off. It's some experts that this is all they do is price things, and this is how much it costs. End of story. Like, that's how much it costs. But I think that a builder needs to understand that the pricing of a project, where you've got to get all of your subcontractors pricing and all of the logistics worked out, and how long it's going to take, and what are the builder's overheads, and what are the safety considerations, and what are all the compliance and all of the costs and all of that sort of stuff. It takes a while to do that. And it takes expertise to do that, and it takes skill and experience to do that. It's a whole nother project. Setting up the quote for the project, I don't even call them quotes, we call them proposals, professionally prepared proposals. That's a project in and of itself. So doesn't it make sense that the client should invest in a really good quality process at the very beginning? Like, the best thing for any builder to do is send a prospect a box set of Grand Designs TV shows, right? Because you can go through 12 seasons of Grand Designs and you will find 2 episodes, and I know which ones they are, where project came in on time and on budget. Not under budget, on time and on budget. 2 episodes out of 12 seasons over 3 countries, New Zealand, Australia and the UK. Every other episode, it goes over time and it goes over budget, most of the time significantly, because of crap project management, crap preparation at the start of the project. So investing in a high quality, well thought out process that's been done by experts with lots of experience and knowledge is the best investment you can make to get the best outcome for your project. So of course you've got to pay for it. It's an investment. It's like insurance.
That's correct. Well, a lot of, sad to say, tradies or builders out there still looks at it, the tendering process. I think there's also an inherent problem from the very get-go. That is where, shall we say, the transfer of power, or who actually makes a call here and there. Now, we've delved into the client side, which is who always ask like a free quotes, right? So, but the other side that we should look at as well is that if builders are being treated by clients to actually put in a quote for free, what will happen? It will more likely, they'll pass that on, that risk as well, with the subbies. It's a domino effect, because if they experience it, no, I don't want to just experience that. I need to give it to someone else. Then eventually what happens out there predominantly in the industry is that there's probably 3 builders pricing a job. And there's at least three minimum sparkies also, or plumber, pricing for the job. So you can see right now there's probably 9 sparkies already trying to bet on the job itself. That's competition. That's okay. I'm up for it. But hang on. There's something here as well that still no one is talking about it. But aren't we as an industry exploiting that? What do you think? What do you say?
100%. And it's what I encourage our builders at Black Belt to do is if you are asking your prospect to invest $5,000-$10,000 into a really well thought out, professionally prepared proposal, as part of that fee, there needs to be you paying your subcontractors for their time, their experience, their expertise to deliver a very accurate, well thought out, planned electrical plan and process, plumbing plan and process. And they need to be compensated for that time. It's like, who else would ask somebody to go to work for a week and say, I need you to come in for a week, but I'm not paying you? Particularly, if it's a job where we require your experience and we require your expertise and knowledge. but I'm not paying you for it. Like, that's just nuts. That's crazy. And to me, the meat in the sandwich, the person that can change this is the builder. Because if they prioritise what we talked about before, about learning how to build trust and learning how to communicate high levels of perceived value from your client's perspective. So to do that, you need to know what is important from your client. You need to have these great listening skills, and you need to ask questions, and you need to pay attention. To me, it's not even about being paid for your proposals. I think that's an important part of the builder's journey. But ideally, I think that the ideal outcome is the builder becomes the trusted advisor. And we move away from this 3-quote bullshit, because it's just a race to the bottom. If the builder can build a connection with the prospect and really understand their fears, frustrations, wants and aspirations, and have that prospect genuinely feel like the builder understands with great detail, they will have an incredible connection. There will be trust, there will be openness, there will be transparency, and the prospect can then openly and with high levels of trust be able to say, this is what I want and this is how much I've got. And the builder, with their focus and commitment to give their prospect the best value that they can and the best quality experience that they can use their experience and knowledge and expertise to guide that prospect to make the decisions to be able to get as much of what they want for what they can afford, because it's not the builder's responsibility, as many clients think it is, to deliver everything that the client wants for what they're prepared to pay. That's not the builder's responsibility. Builder's responsibility is to do a high quality job and deliver a great experience for their client. And to do that, the builder needs to understand it's a team sport. We're a team with our prospect. And the prospect has expectations for the builder, and the builder has expectations for the prospect. We each need to understand each other's expectations and live up to them. And when you do that, you will have a brilliant experience. They'll get a brilliant outcome. They'll get a brilliant experience throughout the project. And they become part of your marketing team. They're out there telling everybody how brilliant that builder is because of the quality of the experience that they had.
Now, talk us through when a builder signs up on your program, what are we looking at? How many months? How many sessions are they when they get into your program? And shall we say, obviously there's different levels of success that they achieve as well. How soon do they see some changes, shall we say?
That's the old how long's a piece of string question. But the process at this stage is we have a program called the Blueprint program, and that it initially begins as a 12-week program. And if you want to stay in it for longer than 12 weeks, there's an opportunity to do that. But generally, what we try to do in that 12 weeks with the builder is build 3 pillars. The first pillar is all about mindset and personal effectiveness, which is what I spoke about first. That's the very first thing we've got to do. We've got to create the space to be able to implement the rest of the stuff. And so that's the first pillar that we endeavour to establish. When we create space in their mind, in their day, they then start to implement a thing called the Quality Client Pathway, which is all about how to get a lead and educate them and guide them to become a really high quality client. So that there's a whole lot of choreography and resources and skills that are needed to be learned to do that. But that's far more important than marketing, because most builders have a really horrible process that they put their leads through, which is why they don't get the success of getting the client being a really high quality client at the end. Some do, but it's rare. And so they spend money on marketing and lead generation and then put them through this rubbish experience. You're better off having a great experience. Then you can have a trickle of leads, and the chances that they will turn out to be a great client are very, very high if you've got a good process to put them through. And then the third pillar is Mike Michalowicz's Profit First, which is just an awesome system to fix any of the financial distress that most, not only builders, but small businesses experience. So we do that in the first 12 weeks. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer, which is cool, but we try and establish those pillars first. If we still love each other at the end of that, they get an opportunity to apply to come into the Black Belt program. And that's open-ended. So Black Belt's been running for 11 years now, and we've still got members that started 11 years ago in Black Belt. Back in the day when like pre-Black Belt, we still had a business coaching program. So we've got I think currently we've got something like three of our members in Black Belt have been with us since before Black Belt. So they're in like their 20th and 22nd year with us. So they've been with us a long time. So
wow.
I guess the message from that is it's not a course, right? It's a community, and the community, when you join it, if you understand the principles of the community, like I keep talking to our group about this concept that what we are is we're a flock of geese, and we use the flock of geese principles for our community. And that is, if we fly in a V formation, if we have a formation, geese can actually fly 70% further in a V formation than a single bird can fly with it using the same amount of energy. It's like a peloton in a push bike race. The group can go further and faster than an individual rider. So community is really, really important. And when you join the community, your commitment needs to be contribution. Not what can I learn from the community, but what can I contribute to it? And it's the thing that I am most proud of. And I didn't design it this way. It just kind of happened this way. But we certainly have lent into it. The people are amazing, and they help each other out. They share resources. Like there's no secrets. I'm not going to tell someone my secret of how to do this. Like as soon as they find something that works, they share it with the rest of the groups. The rest of the group can benefit from it, and they're just a bunch of amazing people.
Well,
but to answer your question, it's not a course. So Black Belt doesn't have an end date. It's a bit more like a bikie club. The only way out's in a pine box.
Now, the question is, what's the experience look like? Do you gather, or do you is it all virtual, or is there do you travel around to establish that connection with all your members?
Yeah. So it kind of changes as we get a pandemic here and there and that sort of stuff. We have to change how we do it, but there are members that are all over the country. So how we maintain momentum is we have a couple of calls a week. So on a Tuesday, currently we have a thing called questions and contributions. So everybody shows up with either a question or a contribution. So I think you've been watching these 90-day videos that I've been doing, that I've done 104 of so far. And we talk about this thing called the Feynman method, where we teach what we most need to learn. So in this Tuesday session, it's normal for people to show up and do a little teaching session. So they'll teach something because they want to learn it. Everybody else gets to benefit from it as well. So it's questions and contributions. And then on Friday, we have a thing called Feedback Friday, where everyone gets together and we share the gains that they've made this week and any learnings that they've made this week. And it's a very definite, on purpose use of language. We used to call it wins and lessons. But when you talk about wins, the opposite side of the ledger is losses. Whereas gains is you're just focusing on progress. We're not focusing on anything else other than progress. What did you progress this week? And when your focus is on that, you get a real sense of momentum and movement rather than win, lose, And then learnings is a lesson that's been implemented. So it's all well and good to say I've learnt the lesson, but have you? Show me how you've changed a system or a process or improved a skill to prove that that lesson hasn't just been information you've gathered. It's a learning because it's been implemented. So we share that on Fridays. And they're awesome sessions. I just love those sessions. It inspires the rest of the group. They learn and share with each other, and it's just a wonderful experience. And then about 3 times a year, we get together face to face. So this year we were in Perth twice because we got a few members over in Perth, so we thought we'd give them a rest from flying east, and we all flew west and had a couple of sessions in Perth. And then most recently, a couple of weeks ago, everyone came down to Hobart for a 2-day session and they are the most fun. This group of people are just amazing. They're incredibly supportive, and I'll just give you one quick story to help you understand the power of this. Is one of our members who is in Launceston. A couple of years after she joined, or he and her joined the Black Belt, we'd found out that they'd gone through a pretty horrific experience some years before where one of their children had passed away. And I learned a bit about them, where they'd created a memorial in a park in Launceston that other grieving families who have lost a child can go and appreciate. And they'd learned a lot from this, and I just so was impressed and inspired by how this couple was living their life, having dealt with this really impactful situation that's happened. Anyway, at one of these in-person get-togethers, the idea was sort of spawned that she might write a book to help other families and help other families outside of, the families that knew a family where they'd lost a child. How do we support them and all that sort of stuff? So long story short, she wrote this book. It took her about 12 or 14 months or what have you. And she had the book launch about 2 months ago. And the book launch was an in-person event. It was in Launceston. The number of Black Belt members that flew in from around the country at their own expense and time and all of that sort of stuff to be at this book launch and support the lady who wrote it just blew me away. The connections, the friendships, the support that they give each other is phenomenal. And that's the thing I'm most proud of with Black Belt. I think it's quite unique. I've been in other groups and other communities, business coaching groups and communities. And as I said, this isn't by design, it's just happened, but we do lean into it. And I think it really is unique. And to me, it's the single most important part of the whole setup that we've got with Black Belt is only opening the door to Black Belt to people who really understand the importance of community and are willing to show up and contribute. It's not a course. It's not about what you learn. It's about what you contribute. And if you think about that, if you're in an environment where you're surrounded by a whole bunch of people who are contributing, how much more are you going to learn rather than being in a community where there's this one person that does all of the teaching? So everybody walks away with one idea versus everyone walks away with 30 ideas. Yep. It's really powerful.
Truth be told, we are an average, right, of 5 people that we always associate ourselves with. So you said at least 2 days a week, right? That they can keep in contact with you and also the other members. And oftentimes, most business owners like tradies or subcontractors like subbies, tradies, who they always associate with themselves is technically they're always on a job, they're always on a site with their peers, with team members. Don't get me wrong. It's good because that's the part of actually really running the job, running the business. But for them to actually circle back and find where they're grounding their stability, right? And I think that's a very reason why you created this program itself, because that puts them out or gets them out from the mundane tasks and daily grind of running the business. Now, so far, with all of those experiences, shall we say, that the program that you create out there, what are still the struggles out there that mainly we should be collectively in the industry should address on? I totally believe as well that the best thing that we can change is not the world, but change ourselves. But where do you think they can get started?
Great question. I believe that the answer is internally, as you said, rather than looking at the problems in your business, look at what am I putting into my mind? What are my beliefs? What are my thoughts about things? Could they be at the root of the problem? And what am I doing about it? And like you mentioned, that builders or tradies are on site with each other all of the time. And you mentioned that you're the sum of the people that you hang around with the most. You're the average of the people you hang around with the most. And I just think it's so important to look for and try and get on the inside of a community that will hold you to account and hold you to a higher standard. And I think that on many building sites, conversation will continue just to go around and around and around about how tough things are, how good help's hard to find, how you've got to be price competitive, all of these things that create additional levels of stress. And it's like, to answer your question, you know, what's the main thing that is probably the biggest problem at the moment that I see? It is this level of distress and pressure that business owners and tradies are experiencing because of all of the pressures that they've got to deal with. And if you're in an environment where the people are talking about these negative things over and over and over, it becomes all you think about. And, you know, on our podcast, I know over the years we've had a bunch of conversations with people like TX and organisations that deal with, that help with mental health and suicide prevention and all of that sort of stuff. Until I got into the building specific coaching, I didn't realise how prevalent the mental health issues and the levels of suicide in this industry are. So to me, the answer to that question is just the levels of distress and pressure that the people in the industry are constantly under. That's the thing that I think that needs to be addressed, and it can be addressed if you're hanging around with the right people.
Well, the other thing is oftentimes people are not problem aware. What are the telltale signs that, hang on, I should probably be talking to Mick, or shall we say other? Yeah. Because
it doesn't have to be us. I mean,
we're a tradie, we're a builder. Technically, I'm a tough guy, right? That's the whole masculine side of the running the business. But hang on, it's not always, actually right now, do notice, it's not always predominantly now just run by guys. There's also the wife, or also the business owner, the wife, who are actually take on the job. Nakumod, there are some people who are actually, hang on, my husband is gone, but I know how to run this thing. But it's the challenge here, right? We have to be open now that there is an underlying reason why you're not able to operate, and what's current situation, or shall we say, how can we help them to become more problem aware?
I think a telltale is if the problem continues to occur. Like, that's the sort of most basic red flag. Like, if you're dealing with the same thing over and over and over again, that should capture your attention that you need to be doing something different. And you can try and work it out yourself, obviously. That's kind of the slowest route. If you're trying to, elevate your position, your rankings in a sport, for instance, tennis, trying to figure it out yourself is near on impossible. And if you do progress, it's very, very slow. And so the best athletes have coaches, and they have coaches because they realise that's the fastest and most effective way to improve. It's very difficult to figure out, if you're playing tennis, what you're doing ineffectively or what areas you could improve when you're playing the game. Like, you need to have that third party perspective so people can see what you're doing and what your tendencies are when this happens and that happens. And, I'm using that analogy because many years ago in the journey that I didn't sort of fill you in with at the start, after I sold life insurance and started our own business and what have you, I kind of got sucked into coaching the mental side of things in elite sports. I was working with the Tassie cricket side for a while and the Victorian cricket side for a little bit, but I worked with Tennis Australia for a number of years and was coaching the elite kids for a while from the mental side and all of the national and state coaches, and then eventually was asked by our number one woman tennis player at the time to go on tour with her and be her coach. And so I got to see from the inside at this really high level of sport, both team sports and individual sports, and the parallels between successful individuals in sport and successful teams in sport, and the parallels between sport and business. They're just scary, and we can learn a lot from elite sports teams and elite individual players in sport. But the whole, it basically just comes back to this whole mindset thing. And like what we were talking about, what can be done was, I remember talking to these tennis players on a rainy day one time in Western Australia, and we sort of went around the room and we were discussing what's the thing when you're competing, what's the thing that makes the biggest difference on the day? Is it your fitness and tactical ability, or is it your mindset, your emotional management? And I said, give me a percentage. Like, is it 20% physical and 80% mental, or the other way around? Give me a percentage. And we went around the room, and I think everybody agreed that the mental side of it was far more important than the physical side of it. Most people would sort of say 80-20, 60-40 was the lowest, I think, but it's still 60 mental, 40 physical. And then I asked everybody, well, how much time do you put in working on the physical side of things? And people, you know, they would put in 8 hours a day, 6 hours a day, that sort of stuff. And I said, well, based on your calculations, if you think it's 80-20 and you're putting in 6 hours a day on the physical, that kind of means the whole rest of the day must be working on the mental side of things. How much time do you work on your mental fitness capacity? And they sort of all got a bit sheepish and didn't want to make eye contact after that and said, not much. And isn't that crazy that we understand that our ability to think better and manage ourselves emotionally have such a profound impact on how things turn out, whether it's our business or a sport, yet we put very little to no time into practicing it.
I love your background, Mick. Thank you for sharing that background of yours. So I think the answer already on this next question of mine is yes, but I need you to elaborate on it. So one of the expert business gurus out there, right? They say you have to treat yourself as a business owner like a, and you mentioned that as well. I mean, with a background of you coaching, right? So why should they consider having a mindset of being an athlete? Because I mean, you know, I'm just running business, I'm just running numbers, but why should they actually even consider thinking more like a highly effective sports athlete running a business?
Well, because everything is so parallel in sporting achievements and business achievements. So in sport, you need to prepare for the competition, and after the competition, you need to recover. And it's a cycle. It's called the preparation, performance, recovery cycle. And we actually teach it in Black Belt for business as well. And so if you are aware of this cycle and you implement it in your business, let's say, for instance, you have a client or a prospect meeting. The quality of how that meeting will go is going to be significantly determined by the preparation that you put in before you have that meeting. So we prepare, which most builders don't do, but we prepare. We make sure that what's my purpose here? You know, I need to just understand I need to listen with the intent to understand. I really need to find out about their fears, frustrations, wants and aspirations, all of that sort of stuff. And then, you know, I need to build trust by listening and having them feel like I understand from their perspective. So that's the preparation before that meeting. Then you go have the meeting, and you might do well or you might do poorly or whatever. That doesn't matter. The performance is the performance. You've already done the preparation, so there's nothing more you can do about that. Then you have the performance. Then afterwards, we have what we call recovery / analysis. So if it's a physical performance, you have recovery. You know, you have ice bath and jump in the sea and have a massage and all that sort of stuff. That's a physical recovery. But in the case of a client meeting, you have an analysis. That's the recovery part. You analyze, how well did I do? How well did I stick to my thing? What went sideways? What could I have done better? What could I improve? And the learnings you take from that recovery / analysis time and effort, you then put into preparation for next time. So your preparation improves. And if your preparation improves, of course your performance will improve. But after every performance, there will always be something that you can unpack to look for an improvement. And if you just commit to the preparation, performance, recovery / analysis cycle, you can't help but improve. You can't help but get better. And isn't that what you want for your business? Do you want to put up with the same shit day after day after day and wear yourself out and not be able to enjoy your holidays and be stressed out about financial management and managing your team and managing the problems with your team and managing the problems with your clients forever? Or do you want to find a better way of doing all of those things, which is absolutely possible, but you can't do it all at once? So we've got to go back to this, what's the weakest link in my chain at the moment, and have a process to identify what the weakest link is currently. And let's do the preparation, performance, recovery cycle a bit on that to strengthen that link in the chain. And then we'll find out what's the weakest link in the chain. And you keep just going through that cycle, if you like, which is what sports people do. The interesting thing that really got my attention with this was a couple of years ago, I was with Dan Sullivan's coaching group, and I flew over to Canada to participate in one of their workshops live. And I was just sitting next to one of these other participants, and they were kind of talking about, preparation and planning and all of this sort of stuff. And I was sitting next to this guy, and we just got into a conversation in one of the breaks, and he was a trainer / coach for the really high level athletes in the American football. So the NFL over there, the gridiron stuff. And it was a funny conversation because he was saying, there's the difference in the commitment to $100 million a year player, like $100 million, and a $40 million a year player. He said it's like chalk and cheese. The guys who earn $100 million, their commitment to recovery and preparation is absolute, which is no wonder they get the $100 million. But these $40 million guys, and I just had to laugh because he was talking about these guys who are earning $40 million a year like they're losers. They weren't really committed to the process and all of that sort of stuff. But it just got my attention, captured my attention about how important is that for all of us. We're running a business. We've got to get into this better preparation based on what we learned from our last performance. So prepare, perform, analyse, learn, prepare, perform, and just keep going around that cycle. And what else can happen other than improvement?
That's a holy trinity approach.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that concept. Now, probably the other thing is a lot of tradies or builders beat themselves up, right? And in such a way that oftentimes they run the job on site, right? They make phone calls during the daytime because that's the only time you can talk to your suppliers and all of your subbies, right? And what are the things that, should we say, that you would recommend? I mean, start outsourcing it, right? Is there anything that you reckon that might actually be, I'm not specifically saying estimating, but what are the things that they should start letting go to gain that
estimating
freedom?
I know you're not saying that, but it's regardless of what you do and the business you've got, I would make that suggestion anyway, because that would probably be the first thing that I would encourage people to invest in. And it absolutely is an investment, because what we've found in Black Belt is when one of our members uses a third party to do the pricing, it really does create this arm's length experience for the client, and if you're smart enough and effective enough at communication, how you present it to the client is that we are much better off getting these experts to do this because that's all they do. Like if you've got to have an operation on your brain, do you want a brain surgeon or a GP to do the work, Who do you want messing around inside your skull? So having people that do this day in, day out, have got systems, have got their finger on the pulse, knowing what's going on, we're much better investing in getting them to do this piece than us. That frees the builder up to do other far more important things. A team of people that all they do is estimating are going to do a much better, faster, higher quality job than a builder who has to learn how to wrangle subcontractors, how to, do all of the administration and collect money and manage problems and manage team and like everything else that they need to do. How can they get good at estimating? How can, like they might be good as far as being accurate, but how long does it take compared to giving it to a team of people who just do it all day and eat it for breakfast? Like that's what they do. And the beauty of having the client understand that we've got specialists doing that, I think the client ends up having far more confidence in the pricing when it's done externally than they do if the builder's done it.
A quick disclaimer, guys. I didn't twist Mick's arm.
Didn't pay me to say that.
This.
I've I've been talking about this in Black Belt for eons, and
Right.
we've been encouraging guys to do it. Like some of our builders have actually got their own virtual assistants that do estimating. And I remember it was probably 6 or 7 years ago when we first had this conversation, because our members were getting frustrated and sick and tired of all of the time and effort that it took to do the estimating side of their business. And it's the bit that most of them hated the most. But they all felt that nobody else outside the business could do it because they don't understand. So when I suggested, get virtual teams or virtual assistants to do the estimating, I was howled down. There's no way that people would do it. Now, many of our members have got teams of VAs and use organisations like yours, Joey, because they go, I think I was wrong. I think they can actually do it better than us. And it frees the builder up to do these other far more important things. Like, it's just a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned.
And well, on that side, what are the feedback with those clients of yours, or let's say in your community, when they started to say, you know what, I had to let go. Somebody else had to do it. What's their feedback, shall we say? What are the easiest win or the low-hanging fruit win that they get right away?
I don't think that they experienced that straight away. I think that they were scared shitless in the beginning because of the group think throughout the industry that you've got to do it yourself. You can't trust somebody else to do it. So they were scared in the beginning, but now they rave about it. Like they go, it's the best thing that I've ever done because I'm now doing these other things and improving my team and improving our systems. And I'm enjoying life better and blah, 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 blah. The win that they get is finally understanding that there are people who can do much of what the builder thought they were the best at. There's many people and teams like yours who can do things far better than the builder can. Far better, far faster, higher quality.
Well, I'll take this opportunity.
I don't even know what the discussion's about.
Well, I'll take this opportunity to share my insight about it, and feel free to disagree, right? Now, what I do believe is that oftentimes a tradie or builder who starts their business, they actually wear all those hats, and the very first role that they fill in, the very most important role, is actually win the job. And winning a job is actually being the estimator themselves. And I couldn't blame them to say, no one can do it like me, because I'm the one who's winning jobs. But there's a portion of that they don't see, that 80% that they can outsource, and 20% their decision making, their insights, their knowledge, which is obviously the Pareto rule, right? You don't need to do all the 80%. You can just get that somewhere, somehow. It may not be, probably the question always comes about as well is, well, how good were you able to transfer your knowledge and to make sure that you still have a level of control with that 20%, right? So on your end, I mean, obviously there's that whole mindset shift or paradigm shift that you develop on this whole program. I would like you to, ask you probably, what is it that you want to, shall we say, last thoughts you want to say and share to the listeners of the Profitable Estimator Podcast, where we actually really give insights and strategies how to be more profitable. Not just that, but to actually really run their business well. So what are your last thoughts?
I think giving yourself space to think about and identify what you are genuinely good at. That, how do I say it? There are activities that we are good at that suck our energy out of us. But there are also activities that we're good at that give us energy. And I would encourage everybody to go through a process. And this is something that we recommend in Black Belt and do it fairly regularly, like once a quarter or something like that, where you just capture everything that you've been doing in a day, say every 15 minutes. And I know it sounds like an impost, but it's just a note. Do it every 15 minutes. What have I been doing? And do that every day, 7 days a week for 2 weeks. Because that's going to give you a nice even spread of all the activities that you get involved in your business. At the end of each night, get that list of activities that you've been up to that day and get a red and a green highlighter and just go through each activity and either highlight it with green or red. If it's an activity that when you do it, you feel it gives you energy, highlight it with green. If it's an activity that takes away energy, highlight it with red. Because I think the key to the future is identifying those activities that turn up red and finding somebody like Joey to do that activity for you. Another person in your business, a piece of software that will do it, a team like Joey's got to do the estimating, and you find a new home for that activity and you take it off your list and you've just created a space. So let's say, if we're going to use the Profitable Estimator as an example, and you're estimating on average, let's say, I don't know, pick a figure out of the air, 10 hours a month in your business you're estimating, and you're able to find a new home for that activity. And as Joey said, like even if it was 80% of it and you still do the 20%, that's 8 hours in a month that you've just freed up. You've gotten it off your list. And the key to that is to schedule the activities that you've labelled in green into that 10 hours that you've just freed up. And if you keep doing that, it's another cycle. It's the audit, transfer, fill cycle. I like these triads.
Love that.
You do that, the whole thing. And then you pick something to transfer. You give it to Joey or somebody else. And then you go, well, that gave me back an hour a week. Then you fill that hour a week with what we'll call a green activity, something that you're passionate about. And again, if you keep going around that cycle, you're slowly eliminating the things that suck energy out of you, and you're replacing them with things that give you energy. That will have the most profound effect on your experience, on your business, on your profitability, on your team, on your customers' experience. I think it'll impact everything. So that's my final thought. There you have it.
Really appreciate your insights, Mick. As we said on this intro, legendary. I think you're a living legend, and I would love to actually have another episode with you. I mean, you know what?
Anytime.
Let's see. We'd love you to come back, and obviously there would be more things that will come out there. I know there's actually one last question that I really want to ask, but you know what? I think I know we're going to edit it anyway, so I'll just ask this question. What are your thoughts right now on AI and how it changes many things, and it also impedes the growth of your members?
I've got a few thoughts on it. One of the things that I believe will happen is particularly with the younger generation of builder and trades, because they're not afraid of technology, so they will embrace technology. I hope this doesn't happen, but I suspect it will, is that they will use AI agents and automation to do pretty much everything. And I remember listening to Gary Vaynerchuk talk about this, and he said that AI and all the AI agents and the way that this is heading is that it's going to create a massive void that needs to be filled, where people miss communicating with people. And Gary even said that he envisages in the not too distant future, people will pay $1,000 to go for a walk with somebody. It's like the dog walking service, but it's a people walking service. You'll pay money to go for a walk with somebody. And I think potentially that could happen in a building business. People need to be with people. They need to have that connection. They need to swap ideas and talk to each other and experience each other. It's absolutely critical. And so what I would say to people is, yes, use AI and use all of the platforms and tools that you can to improve the non-person to person activity in your business. So get as much stuff off your plate as possible, right? Using the audit, transfer, fill thing that we just talked about. What are all the things that I can get off my plate that we can use AI and automation to take care of, to free me up to spend more time conversing with my prospects and clients, subcontractors and suppliers, telephone conversations, face-to-face. Like, get rid of as much as you can off your plate so you can expand the opportunity to spend time with people. I think if you do that, you will have an extraordinary business, because there's no doubt that there's going to be a void created, a vacuum created, where people will just have a longing to speak to another person again. And so I think that also AI, a lot of people are using it to do their thinking for them. So it's rather than you sit down and try and work something out it's easy just to bang it in, the question into ChatGPT and have a sexy prompt and get the outcome all written for you and what have you, and it saves your brain power. So what I think about that is the people who are lazy thinkers in the past that use AI to do their thinking will still be overtaken by the people who like to think and are using AI as a thinking partner, but making their own decisions and adding their own creativity and imagination into the AI. I think that they will still, the people who aren't lazy thinkers are always going to be in front of the people who are lazy thinkers, whether we're using AI or not. So I think it's a great thing. I love using AI. I don't think it's going to make that much difference to how we are with each other. And the smart people who use AI to get stuff off their plate and expand their opportunity to have more meaningful relationships with their clients and their teams are going to have better businesses in the future.
Well, this sad thing, thank you for that. Thank you for that. Let me add a little bit more. The sad thing that's happening out here, Mick, because of technology, because of access of knowledge as well, we're losing a lot of people, or shall we say younger generations, not getting into trades anymore. And you've seen that journey from people who started their business and they eventually they give up and whatever, right? Or for some reason they see fit. But how can we address this thing altogether as a collective industry? That, hang on, AI cannot replace all the plumbing work, not all the electrical work in here yet, as we can see, right? But on your end, what mindset shift that they should embrace so we can actually address the problem out there? We still have deficit of houses in Australia around. So give us your final thoughts on it, and what could be the way we can still promote this very, shall we say, honors job or honors career of construction industry.
Obviously, I think if a business can stay on the sort of the leading edge of using technology, that's quite attractive to the younger generation. I think also that one key part is, and you'll often hear it, that, you know, the older generation, my generation, even Generation X kind of will talk about the current generation as being lazy and entitled and all of that sort of stuff. And that may well be true, but what we need to understand is they grew up in a very, very different era. Like, if I had to find out something when I was a kid, I had to go to the Encyclopedia Britannica on the shelf and thumb through it and learn something. You know, now you can just go ChatGPT, bang, and you've got the answer straight away. And so there's a completely different experience and expectation as you're growing up. So I think one of the things that as leaders we need to do is really understand where the younger generation is coming from, and rather than shit canning it and saying that they're lazy and entitled and all of that sort of stuff, is understand that what is an environment that will attract them? What is an environment that will inspire them, where they can contribute as well? Because they are humans just like everybody else. And I learned this many, many moons ago from Anthony Robbins. They're the 6 human needs. You know, there's certainty, variety, connection, significance, contribution, and growth. And every human on the planet is moved by an absolute desperate need to satisfy all of those 6 human needs. But how you satisfy them for an older person is different for a younger person. But if you can create an environment in your business that ticks all of those 6 human needs for the younger generation in your environment, that will be the environment they'll be attracted to. Any time you can create an environment where you can identify how can I create more certainty for that person, more variety for that person, more connection for that person, how can I have them feel more significant, how can I give them opportunity to contribute and to grow, that person will be attracted to that environment like a moth to a light. And
wow.
If we can understand that and create environments in our businesses that attract and hang on to those younger generations and tick all of those boxes, I don't reckon we'll have a problem.
Okay.
But you got to have the patience.
Wow. Really, really love your thoughts on this. You've seen, because you operated for 11 years already with your coaching community, right?
30.
Wow, look at that. See? So, well, probably you have, I mean, with your experience like that, I would probably, I mean, probably my probability is high that this happened already. What is, or have you had that opportunity that from a mom and pop's business, the younger or the son or daughter actually took over the business and you were able to assist them, or shall we say you got involved and to help them transition to the newer world that we are on? And what's that success story look like if you had?
It hasn't happened at the moment. It is happening at the moment. So we've got a number of members that have been with us for a considerable amount of time, and they are now getting relatives, younger
Taking
relatives, involved in the business and helping support them to eventually take over the business, which is it's very, very challenging. Like it's a great thing, but it's not a quick thing. It's not something you can go, I've built this great business, here you are, good luck, because it'll all fall over in 5 minutes. There has to be this transition period, and that new leader needs to really want to get involved in all of the stuff that we've just been talking about, you know, being that leader, getting into the triad ideas that we've talked about, constant improvement, becoming a leader, improving leadership, improving communication, improving systems and processes. But they need to step into that role where that other person who's vacating, that's probably been there for 35 years or what have you. So the big shoes to fill, and it doesn't have to take them 35 years to get to that level, like you can stand on the shoulders of giants. But it's a challenge. It's not as easy as you would think. And I think that, you know, parents that have built a great business and want to leave it to their children, they've got to do a lot of work in the transition. It's not as easy as saying, I've built the business, it's all systemised, it's all procedurised, it's now yours, because people still need leadership. They still need communication. They still need all of those 6 human needs ticked. That can't be done with AI. It can't be done with a system. It's people-to-people stuff.
You're an absolute... treat, Mick, having you on the show. Really appreciate all your nuggets. So I think we've gone past even twice the time that I've been doing my interviews. Again, this is a very wonderful conversation. Not a lot actually talks about it. I think also the perspective of me being involved with the actual trades, and you actually also on the other end, which is more on the builder side. So we do have builders that we work with as well. But this whole dynamics change. Hopefully it changes for the better. And the last thing I want to ask is, where can they find you? And I know you're everywhere, but you're omnipresent now. But to those who haven't heard you yet, where can they find you and where can they follow you?
Obviously, you can go to our website, which is buildersbusinessblackbelt.com.au. I'm finding that a great place to connect is LinkedIn. So I'm on LinkedIn. So just reach out to me, you know, let's make the connection through LinkedIn and we can get stuck into a conversation, you know. I love having conversations with people and learning from their perspective and, you know, figuring out how seeing things from other people's perspectives can really enhance your perspective about things. I think disagreeing is kind of pointless. We don't have to agree with everything, but we do need to try and understand from other people's perspectives, and just getting into conversations and finding out where people are at is just fun for me. So I'd encourage people just to jump on LinkedIn, connect through there. We've also got the YouTube channel, which is the Toolshed podcast. So plenty of places to connect.
Wonderful. We'll put the show notes, all the links on the show notes for Mick, so you can follow him. And again, thank you so much for this opportunity, Mick, for sharing your time, and catch you again.
My absolute pleasure. Look forward to coming back.
Thank you. All right, crew, that's another lap of the Profitable Estimator. If today's chat sparked an idea, do us a favor. Hit follow, drop a quick rating, flick this episode to a mate who still thinks near enough is good enough. Show notes are packed with links for free cost templates, our costly checklist, and a calendar slot if you're keen on a TMC Hire remote estimator. Till next time, keep measuring what matters, keep building profitably, and remember, busy is optional, profitable is a choice. Catch you in the next countermeasure.